Psalms 134, 146 through 150. We've used a lot of ways to describe our relationship to God during our story. One of the main ones, of course, is the word aman, or amunah, basically meaning faithful or faithfulness. And the idea, again, is that we are giving our loyalty to one God and not another. A question came up earlier about mental assurance and the idea that we often use the word in English to have faith in something, to have a positive mental outlook toward an outcome. And I had mentioned that that was not the meaning behind aman, as much as it was just to be loyal or showing allegiance, or in the medieval concept of fealty, giving loyalty to, let's say, a sovereign. And so that's a good question. Let's use our text today to illustrate that. Hebrews 11, in fact, was part of the question that was being asked. Are the people in Hebrews 11 not being confident of an outcome, and in that sense being faithful? Here's a passage from Hebrews 11:33, and I'll read through verse 37. These, and there was certain names, of course, listed there in the Hall of Faith, but then it concludes by saying, these through faith subdued kingdoms, worked righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire. And so the question would be, in these sorts of examples, did the person who stopped the mouths of lions, did they do that with a confidence that that would be the outcome? The point is, as you continue to read through Hebrews 11, and I always recommend getting to the bottom of this list, because here's what other people did, again, through faith. Others were tortured. Some had trials of mockings and scourgings, yes, and of chains and imprisonments. Some were stoned. Some were sawn in two. Some were slain with the sword. Others wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins. Notice there's a commonality of the faith. They all had faith, but certainly different outcomes. And so the idea of having confidence in an outcome, I'd recommend, is not behind the word aman in Hebrew in the Old Testament, and as that moves into the New Testament, the Greek word pistis, which picks up the Hebrew word aman, I'd recommend, again, does not have any sense that we can tell of this confidence in an outcome. Well, that leads to the question, are there any other words that have that sense of an outcome idea? And let me introduce a word to you. It's the Hebrew word batach, and it does have the idea of confidence. And notice you can use this of God as well. Here are some passages that use the word batach. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your batach in Yahweh, Psalm 4:5. Psalm 27:3, though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise against me, in this I will be batach. And then he goes on to again describe his confidence in Yahweh. Psalm 31:6, I have hated those who regard useless idols, but I batach Yahweh. Now, the reason I bring that up as a different word is because, well, these words only occur in the same passage, the same verse, once in the entire Old Testament. Often you can tell when there's a synonym for a word, because Hebrew loves to throw synonyms at each other in poetry, right? And the one line where these are both used together is in Psalm 37:3. Batach in Yahweh, and feed on his amunah. In other words, you're having confidence to God, and there's a beautiful use of that word aman, that aman is not feeling confident toward, because notice God isn't feeling confident about you. You're feeding on his aman, or faithfulness, in the sense that you know he will always be loyal to his purposes. So that again was Psalm 37:3. Well, here's where our passage today helps, because we hear this idea, and this is pretty common, but we now hear it in our reading today. We are to have no batach, or no confidence in, for example, people or humans. And we'll have many examples of this, again, throughout the Psalms, where David is running and he is tempted to put his confidence in his men around him, or something like that. So we'll hear words like Psalm 56:4, in God I have put my trust, I will not fear, what can flesh do to me? In God I have put my batak, I will not fear what flesh can do. Psalm 56:11, in God I have put my batak, I will not be afraid, what can man do to me? Psalm 118:8, same thing. It's better to put batak in Yahweh than to put confidence in man. And here's today's text, Psalm 146:3. Do not trust or place your trust in princes, nor in sons of men, man-class beings, in whom there is no help. So do not show batach to people. By the way, there's also texts, and again, you could have suspected this. This is throughout the Proverbs and the Psalms. There are those who trust in their wealth and boast in the multitude of their riches. Psalm 49:6. Another one related to that, I will not trust in my bow, nor shall my sword save me. Psalm 44:6. The idea, again, is, here was the question, is Aman, translated as faith usually, is that ever a mental assurance of an outcome? I'm recommending no. Because there is a better word for that, the Hebrew word batak, where you do have confidence, the sense of, the outcome in this diagram would not be that God will do something or what specifically he'll do. Again, think of how the Hall of Faith had outcomes of torture, possibly. But the outcome is always that you can rest upon God's faithfulness. You always know that God himself will be your reward. And on the other side, there are numerous times when we are told to not place our confidence in things. Well, what's the lesson in all of this? I'd recommend against trying to feel confident of outcomes in the Christian experience. I'm just noticing it just doesn't pay good dividends. When should I be confident that what I'm praying for will happen? Well, wisdom is often needed there, experience, even just personality issues come into mind. I have a good friend who, when I was in college with her, she was always convinced she would get an F on a test or at least do poorly, and she always came out with an A. In other words, some people's personalities are just driven to be on the safe side of things, and that's just where their mind dwells. And at the same time, they are already safe, or they're already going to do well because of how they've studied and so forth. So I see a difference even in the Old Testament use of two Hebrew words about trying to think confidently about outcomes. Aman, no, that's not an outcome-based word. Batach, yes. We always have the promise of the outcome that God himself will be our reward.